Yo, sup everyone. Today I'm going to be breaking down the film Get Out, and I'm going to be doing this for basically two reasons. One is because some of you might be doing it for a media essay, and number two, more importantly than any essay, is that this film is a great explanation. It's a great dive into how slavery actually works in terms of how slavery is actually psychological in nature more than it is sort of physical. And it's basically like a great kind of window into how slavery in America, although it can be applied to slavery anywhere, but like the black experience in America, how black people were sort of enslaved and what the process of slavery looked like in that regard. Anyway, the film's really good. It's one of the best films that I've seen, to be honest with you. Everything in it's amazing. So I'm gonna break down this central theme of how slavery is psychological and okay, that's the idea. All right. So the film opens with right from the beginning. We can see this is the opening of the film. I'm just gonna mute it. This is the opening of the film. Okay, and we can see that from the outset, right in the beginning, the film has a very dark and it's got a very dark opening scene. Okay, which basically tells us that something is wrong is happening. Okay, tells us that something isn't right. And we don't know who this is. Okay, we don't know who this person is, and they're walking somewhere. They're on the phone, and they're saying something like, "I'm looking for your house," but they're on the phone to a girl. They're like, "I'm looking for your house, but this place looks sort of creepy, and I don't know where it is. I'm getting like freaked out." Okay, and then basically this car pulls up, and a man jumps out and hits the guy, and then kidnaps him, and he puts him in the car. So basically, from the beginning, what this does is this sets the tone that this film is like a horror film, and the film is gonna be dark in tone. Also, in the car who comes and kidnaps the guy, he's playing like old kind of music, like old 1940s, something like 50s kind of music. Okay, you could think like I don't want to say southern music, but it's like them old kind of jingles that you might hear on like in the radio back in the day. So we know that there's something going on, and there's something bad happening with there's something not right. Basically, that's what it says the tone of. Okay, to make it simple, something isn't right. So the film is not going to be like a happy kind of film. It's going to be a film that deals with some dark kind of subject. Okay. Um, then we get introduced, okay, to the film's main hero, and the when we get introduced to him, he is shaving. Okay, he's in the shower. He just has a shower and then he's shaving. Okay. Now, let's see here. So this is when we get introduced to him to first of all, and he is shaving, like I said. Now, when he's shaving, he cuts himself. Okay, he cuts himself when he's shaving, and basically what this shows us is his sort of inexperience. Okay, in that it kind of gives us a sort of indication that he's young, and also he is sort of um, he's not like I'm saying he's not very mature. Okay, I don't just mean in terms of his age, but I mean more so in terms of his uh, experience in life. Okay, and this is shown in him cutting himself when he shaves. And what this basically highlights to us, and then here we're getting introduced to the uh, to Rose, who is another central character in the film. And at this point, and I'll talk about Rose just in a minute, but at this point, we don't really know who she is. Obviously, we can assume that they are together since they're being spliced in one after the other. I just want to show him when he cuts himself shaving. Okay, so he cuts himself shaving right there, and as I said, basically this what this does, okay, is it tells us that this character is like inexperienced. Uh he's not very mature. Okay, that's like a sign when you cut yourself shaving, it means you're not used to it. You just started to shave. It means he's like young, he's not mature. And this is going to be important because it's his immaturity and his lack of life experience, which is what opens him up to being tricked. Okay. And who is it that he gets tricked by? He gets tricked by Rose. Okay, this girl. And right now, basically, Rose is his girlfriend and he is in love with her. And he believes that she is also in love with him. And if you look at Rose, the way that her character has been designed, okay, the way that she's dressed, the way that her hair has been cut, she basically looks like the all-American girl next door. That's like her vibe that she gives off. She's like the innocent, all-American girl next door, girl you meet in high school and you marry kind of thing. And this is obviously done on purpose because the the idea is supposed to be that the institution of slavery, when it happened, or when it happens, is not just something that is done by those who are like in the government or those who are overtly powerful, like the people who have guns and things like this. But the idea is that the institution of slavery, when it happens, when it gets sort of made to be part of the system, the institution of slavery is carried out by everyone, like the normal looking people. Like this girl, she's the girl next door. You would never think that she looks evil, yeah. But the normal looking people participate in the slavery. That's the idea. Okay, so back in the time when the American slave system was happening, the normal looking people would be participating in the slavery too. Understand? That's the point. Okay. Now, uh, this film also obviously presents a sort of window into racial dynamics between black people and white people. What I want to say is, in my sort of analysis of this film and explanation of the central theme in it, that obviously I'm going to talk about white people, and in this case, the white people are the oppressive slave masters, and the black people are the victims of the slavery. But what I want to say is from the outset that it's important that when you watch this film, you don't become radicalized yourself and become an anti-white racist. Okay, that's just as stupid as being like anti-black racist or anti any color racist. Racism is stupid overall. So when I make these critiques, it's important to recognize that obviously this film is talking about a specific version of racism that happened in America, where black people were enslaved by white people predominantly. But this, the central theme or the central explanation, which talks about how slavery actually works, is not unique to white people or black people or anything else. Okay, so it's important to know that this critique is not of white people as a collective, because that again is stupid and you can't collectivize people like that. It's a very dangerous idea. It's one of the ideas that underlines slavery itself. We collectivize this race of people, take away their personhood, their individuality, their humanity, and now we can make them slaves. It's not a good idea. Okay, whether you do it in one way or another, it's not a good idea. So you don't want to collectivize people. Okay, so keep these things in mind as we go forward. And it's important to remember that slavery is not just, it wasn't limited to America. Slavery has been practiced everywhere, by every color and every region, pretty much. Okay. All right. So anyway, we continue. So this is Rose. Okay, so she is essentially in disguise. Okay, we're gonna find out later on in the film that she is actually in on the whole thing, and she is evil too. Okay, and this is why he can fall for her tricks because she doesn't look evil. She looks like the girl next door. The critique of the critique inside this, the subtle critique inside this, the more radical kind of critique inside this would be that how black men get tricked or were used to get tricked by white women who look innocent, something like this. This would be the radical critique. Again, I don't recommend you go sort of down those lines. We'll just stick to the slavery idea. Okay? Okay, good. Alright, yeah, so like I said, it's facilitated. Yeah. Okay, this is the radical kind of critique, but I don't recommend you take this. But it's not very helpful. It's not really true also. Okay? Alright, yeah. Good. Yes, like I said. Okay, anything else here? Good. Okay. Alright. So, alright, so we're introduced to them, they're in love with each other, and then she says to him, okay, you need to come to my parents' house and come meet my parents, and basically, I want you to meet them, and I want you to meet my family because I care about you a lot. Okay. So they go to drive to her house, and if you notice, the person driving the car, okay, is Rose. And basically, um, this is a sort of visual introduction, okay, to the larger theme, uh, which is going to be of slavery. But this is a kind of visual introduction to it in that the heart of slavery or being a slave is essentially being controlled by someone else. And the metaphor being explained here, okay, with her driving the car and him in the passenger seat, the metaphor being explained, the visual metaphor here, or the visual symbol here, is that she is driving, she is in control, and he is a passenger. Okay. This is the initial version of this dynamic, okay, between the black person and who is going to be the slave and the white person who's going to be the slave master or slave owner. This is the first version of it, which it doesn't seem very bad on the, what's it called? It doesn't seem very bad on the face of it. It's a bit of a simp thing letting your girl drive you, but I'm joking, but sort of. But which actually that does have a point to it. Okay, which I'll explain in a second, a sort of character kind of point. But the on the face of it, it doesn't really seem like a big deal. Yeah, she's driving, he's not driving. Yeah, who cares? Yeah, it's not a big deal. But this is gonna set up the bigger theme, and it's gonna set up the um, what's it called? The actual thing that happens later on in the film. The idea of not being the driver of the car. Okay, it's gonna start out here where it's about a car, and it's gonna eventually evolve into you yourself, your body, someone else in control of your body or his body, other black people's bodies, being controlled by by a white person who is driving them essentially. Okay, so the other um, the other attached thing, okay, which I was joking about with her driving and him not driving. The other attached thing is this does in fact also connect to his character in that um, it basically shows that even at this point, um, it kind of reinforces like what I was saying before about him kind of being immature and still kind of inexperienced with life and not being fully mature, not being like a full man. We also see in this scene that she takes a cigarette out of his hand and she throws it away out the window, like a mother would do to like a bad child, something like that. So basically, the point is, at this beginning part of the film, he is the hero in the film. He's going to be the hero in the film. But in the beginning of the film, he is basically inexperienced. He is naive. He is still immature. And he basically is looking for someone to protect him. He's looking for someone to, a mother basically, is what he's looking for. Okay, now his friend gets introduced to us. Okay, they have a sort of phone call, kind of a funny phone call. His friend's like a funny kind of guy. Okay, and then they have an incident where basically a deer runs in the road and Rose, basically driving the car, kills the deer because it jumps in front of the car. And this affects him in a great way because it gives him a flashback to how his mum died when she was killed in a hit and run accident. And basically, no one helped her. We find that out later in the film. Now, so he's affected by this. Now, basically, what happens right after this is a police officer shows up and he starts to ask or tell Chris that he wants him to give his ID. Even though he wasn't driving the car, he wants his ID and he wants to sort of ask him questions. He wants to talk to him. And Rose basically interferes and she says, no, he doesn't need to do that because he's not driving the car and he's not done anything wrong. Now, here, this could be sort of talking about how, like, racial dynamics, maybe, about how, like, the police might be extra harsh, or there's a perception, an idea in the culture that the police is extra harsh on black people or people, minorities. But anyway, I'm not really sure if that's true yet, but in any case, I mean, if it's true, actually, statistically, in any case, the point is, it's enough that it feels that way. Okay, definitely people feel that way. And it connects to the bigger picture of slavery with the idea of authority being used, excuse me, the authority of the law being used in an unfair, unjust, oppressive kind of way. But in any case, the point of the interaction for the story is that Rose basically interferes and she protects him. Okay, she tells the cop that he's not going to give his ID and he doesn't have to. She speaks up for him on his behalf and she protects him, basically. So she fulfills the role that he is looking for, basically acting like his mother. And what this does is it basically solidifies his trust in her and it makes him feel that he can rely on her. Now, this is relevant to the bigger picture of slavery in that when a people, like a collective of people, like black people, for example, when a people get enslaved, and this becomes generational, what happens is their ideas of safety, security, and being able to protect themselves gets destroyed. Okay, because they have no power basically, so they're in need of being protected. So when a person is in a state like this, they will gravitate to anyone who can protect them. And we can imagine that in those times, the uh, slave, the black slave, would have seen the white slave owner, especially the woman in the slave owning household, with a sort of motherly type of affection or connection. Because probably, I'm obviously assuming here, but probably the woman would be more likely to be nicer to them. I'm just assuming, obviously, in general, you could think women are more nurturing kind of thing. So, and obviously, in comparison to the male master slave owner and the female master slave owner, I'm assuming the woman would have been nicer. She probably wouldn't have beat him, or she won't be able to beat him as hard anyway. So he would have seen her as a sort of protective, motherly figure. And in that situation of sort of extreme trauma and having no other protection to turn to, there would be a sort of twisted kind of bond that gets formed, like is being formed right here. Okay, with Chris forming this sort of motherly affection for Rose, who is actually at this point setting him up to be enslaved, to destroy him basically. But he can't see it, you see? And uh, this is another kind of explanation or symbolizing of ho- the slave master dynamic, in that the slave, once the people get enslaved, the individual people can't see that they're slaves anymore. If you're born into, excuse me, if you're born into slavery and your parents are slaves, your grandparents are slaves, everyone around you is a slave, and it's everyone who looks like you in terms of your color is a slave, your children are slaves. How would you know anything other than slavery, right? You wouldn't. So this is one of the ideas in the film, okay, which is really nicely explained and sort of visually symbolized, which is that he at this point does not know that she is basically controlling him and manipulating him, and in his innocence and naivety and lack of ability to see reality properly because of her tricks. And again, the radical kind of take on this would be to now, and again, don't do this, please, but to now basically put this label of being tricky or being manipulative on white people as a collective, which is again, don't do that yet. Resist the idea, resist the temptation to become racist yourself. Okay, just take the truth and don't go more. Okay, so because again, this could be happening in the reverse. Okay, it's nothing to do with color. It's about power dynamics. It's about who has control over the government, etc. It's not color. A color is irrelevant. There's nothing inherently oppressive about one race or one color of people. Your melanin doesn't make you more oppressive or less oppressive. Okay. Anyway, so at this point in time, he does not know that he is being slowly enslaved. Okay. And his ignorance is basically, his unfortunate ignorance means that he is showing love towards his slaver, his slave master. He is demonstrating love and gratitude towards her. Okay, because he doesn't know what's happening, which makes it even more tragic. All right. Um, okay, cool. Okay, so there's the cop discussion. All right, now, uh, yeah, like I said, yeah. Okay, so now they continue to the house. All right, and upon arriving at the house, trying to get this one scene. Okay, I can't get it. But anyway, upon arriving at the house, there's like a, okay, I can't get it. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Basically, upon arriving at the house, um, there is someone outside, a black person, a black man outside who's doing what's it called? Sweeping the grass. Okay. And Rose lies and says this is the groundskeeper. We later find out who it is. Okay. It's not the groundskeeper. Okay. So we later find out who it is. Okay, so she lies to him and says this is the groundskeeper. In any case, this him being there doing manual labor, juxtaposed, he put next to this big house. Okay. Basically sets the foundation again, the tone of this is the house of a slave master. Okay, even if you look at the house, it looks like one of those old, like colonial kind of old Southern American kind of big house. It's the master's house. This master's house. It's the big house. What they call. Even I think if you watch some films like Django Unchained, I think the what's his name? Candy lives in a house like this. A lot of the people they live in houses like this, slave masters. They have a big plantation or a big like field, big estate where like the slaves would work, which is what we're seeing here, basically. So we're seeing the film basically takes the old dynamic and it puts it in like modern context, okay, with like modern cars and uh, things like that, modern technology. Okay, but it's the same as taking like the old dynamic and putting it in a modern context. All right. So, uh, and then basically Chris meets the family, and again, this sort of very, very wide, super wide shot, super long shot, extreme wide shot. It shows the grandness of the house, how big it is, and also what it does. Okay, and this kind of camera angle is carried on throughout the entire introduction. Look, you can see we're still on this angle now, very far away. And essentially what this sets up, okay, is that uh, because remember the viewer, this is something also to keep in mind when you're doing like film studies or any kind of literature study, art study, literature study, media study, any kind of thing where you're looking at a story, basically. The viewer, the reader, the person watching or consuming the content is always in alignment with the main character. Okay, the viewer and the main character basically become one. That's how like stories work. We become the main character. All right. So with the camera angle or the camera position being very far from the family conversation, it basically demonstrates, symbolizes that even though the family is acting like they love him, like they're happy to see him, they're happy to be with him, and they're all like smiling at him, the dad is using, the dad is trying to use slang. He says, what does he say? That thang or something like that. He's trying to talk, which in and of itself is also kind of it's in and of itself an indication of his dislike for Chris and for black people in general, in that he's basically mocking uh, urban speak or how black people talk. A lot of people talk like that now, but classically, how black people talk. He's like mocking it. He's saying it in like it's like a double speak, double speak, saying it like I- I'm, talking how you talk, but it's like a mock. It's like a mockery of it, basically. So, so basically, okay. So basically, um, the idea, okay, with this sort of very far away shot, which is again carried on for a few minutes. The idea, okay, is that even though they're acting very happy to see him, and even though they're acting like they're, trying to connect to him and all that, they're happy that he's dating her. What it basically shows is that he is, he is not liked by them. Okay, they are all together and they look like they like him, but he is very far from them. Okay, he's very far from them, like the camera is far from the room or far from being near them. Okay, that's the idea. So they're pretending that they like him, that he is close to them, that they're letting him in. But the reality is that he's very far. That's the idea. Okay, they're lying to him. They're lying to him. And this is going to be a central theme in terms of how the uh, slave master dynamic works, which is that it's completely based on lying, manipulation, and trickery. Okay, it's based on a two-faced relationship, which is that the slave master says one thing, acts one way, has a fake face, but in reality his heart is different, or her heart is different. Okay, it's a heart of evil, manipulation, control. Okay, all for the benefit of themselves. This is what the film is exploring. Okay. Um, and also the music in this scene also sets like a very creepy kind of tone. All right. Now, I'm gonna sort of skip to the next kind of important part. Okay, so they talk a little bit. So we get introduced. This is the mother. This is the father. You can see he's like smiling. There's just something off. Okay, there's something off about them. The father takes him on a tour around the house. He talks about his own relative. I think he's talking about his father here. I can't remember. Hmm. Excuse me. He talks about how his own relative basically competed in the Olympics, and he was he didn't make it, or he was almost going to compete in the Olympics, but he was replaced by black man Jesse Owens as the pick or something like this. And in any case, he says some like weird stuff. Right? He says like he almost got over it, things like this, huh? Anyway, he takes him on a tour around the house, and when they go into the kitchen, okay, this one part I missed. So when they go into the kitchen here, they see another black person who is working by the looks of it as like a maid. That's what she looks like she is. Now we later find out that she's not actually a maid either. And okay, I can't get it. Yeah, it's not letting me get it. All right. And I can't play this just because it gets like choppy if I play it. And also I think I don't want to get copyright strict. All right, so he goes into the kitchen. Oh, there she is there. All right, good. So they go into the kitchen. Okay, and they see this woman working in there, this black woman. Excuse me. And this oops. The woman speaks with a very kind of old-timey, a very odd, old-timey accent, a way of speaking which doesn't seem natural to her. It doesn't seem like she would talk this way. Okay? She talks like in a weird, old-timey, I don't want to say white, but like in a weird, old-timey kind of white, quote unquote. And then again, I don't want to be stereotyping here, but old-timey kind of white, quote unquote, white accent, southern accent. I'll put it that way instead. That's better. Anyway, the point is, it seems odd how she talks. She's like overdoing it. Maybe that's a better way to put it. She's like overdoing it. It doesn't seem to fit her. Something seems to be off. Look at even how she's smiling. It's like overly, it's something overly, it's sinister by overly doing it. Okay? And this is something that all the actors in the films really get this, they capture this feeling very nicely. The feeling is one of unsettling the viewer and putting across this sort of sinister, evil, dark kind of vibe by doing things which normally seem like they are good and innocent, like smiling, for example. Okay? If you look at her smile, it doesn't seem right, and you can't tell why, right? You don't really know what, there's something off about it, but you're not really sure why. It's like a smiling predator. That's what it looks like. Eh? She looks like a smiling predator. And the reason is, we're gonna find out later on in the film, is that she also is not what she appears to be. Okay, so she's not what she appears to be, and the man, the groundskeeper, quote unquote groundskeeper, the black man who was sweeping or raking the grass outside, he also is not what he appears to be. Okay? No one in this film is what they appear to be. None of the white people in the film are what they appear to be, and none of the um like the black people who he meets when he gets to this house, none of them are who they appear to be either. Okay? The only real people in this film are Chris, who is going to be the hero, the main character, and his friend. These are the only real people in the film. Okay, the heroes in the film. Okay. So, in any case, he's not sure. He says senses something's weird about her. Like, and again, the idea again is that one, there's something off about her, but two, it's weird that there's another black worker in the house, and the dad also calls her a servant. He says, I bet you think there's something wrong with us that we have black servants," which is a weird way to put it in the house. So again, there's sort of just a reinforcement of the slavery idea. Okay. So anyway, they sit down and they get served some drinks. And right here, the dad basically tries to oversell the idea that he likes Chris and he likes black people. Okay, that's what they're doing right here. So they're both kind of overselling that they're very happy that Chris is here and they love black people. Okay, they love black people, and this is the mother. She's gonna become very important soon, um, in terms of what she does. And you can see Rose again is playing her part perfectly with sort of acting like she is completely in love with him, and she doesn't even know what's happening. She's just happy to be with him. Okay, so here they're doing this is the brother. Okay, and we find out the truth about him later in the film. But here he's introduced as a sort of mix between spoiled brat and unnecessarily aggressive slash violent person. Okay. Um, and he kind of would represent, I guess, the abusive side of the uh, slave owners. Okay, he's the abusive one who's like the masochist or something like the sadist. He would be the one who enjoys beating the slave just for the fun of it. Okay, and this comes across basically, excuse me, when even if you look at his eyes now, like he looks very unhinged. This comes across basically as he starts to question Chris, and he basically asks him if he knows about UFC and about MMA. It's kind of funny. I mean, he talks about. It's a little bit funny when he talks about jiu-jitsu. You can tell like the scriptwriters and everything did a great job. So I'm actually not even going to critique what the little critique is that you could make. So I'm not even going to critique it because the film is like film's a masterpiece. So I'm not even gonna I'm not gonna critique it. And it's a little thing about he mentions when he talks about jiu-jitsu, which is a bit funny. Okay, should I say it? Maybe just okay, I'll tell you. So it's just for information. This is not a critique, but he basically says that I'm talking about jiu-jitsu here, okay, which is a martial art primarily based on ground fighting. And he basically says in jiu-jitsu there is no size doesn't matter at all. And this is true 90% of the time. Okay, it's true and theoretically speaking, this is true. But it's not true, okay, up to a certain point. It's not true up to a certain point. If the person is much bigger, jiu-jitsu basically starts to break down in terms of yeah, your basically if the person is twice your size, you need to be twice as skilled or three times as skilled as they are for your jiu-jitsu to be effective, basically. Okay, because size is important to keep it simple. All right, anyway, I don't want to veer this off into martial arts yet, but yeah. Anyway, make sure you guys learn that it's important. Yeah, having a knowledge of martial arts will help you much more than if you don't have it. But anyway, okay. Anyway, so here he basically stands up. I don't want to get you guys confused. Anyway, he stands up. He stands up, and he basically wants to choke Chris out, yeah, just for the fun of it. Again, he's like a sadist. All right, so now they go back to the room, and here again you can see Rose is doing her like all American, innocent, bacon apple pie type act, and what she's doing basically is she's pretending like she doesn't know what's happening. That's what she's doing. So she's acting like she has no idea what's going on, why her family is acting this way, why her brother wanted to, choke him out. And she's pretending to be like mad about the whole thing. She's angry about it. Okay, and again, this is all an act, a ploy, deception. Okay, she's lying about all this. And she's doing it to continue to win his trust and continue to make him fall more in love with her and to basically stay for longer, to not run away, which he falls for again. So you can see at this point he's still like very immature. Okay. He wakes up in the middle of the night. Okay. He has a lion teddy bear next to his bed. Predator, a cute predator, is watching him. Symbolic. And he goes outside so he can smoke. Okay. And when he's outside, he basically sees some strange things. And again, just look at this cinematography. Look at this. Look how beautiful that is. That's amazing. Look at the lighting on it. The way he's all lit up, the color on it is very nice. Yeah, everyone in this film did a great job. So he goes outside, okay, and then he witnesses some very strange things when he's outside. Okay, he sees the woman who's supposed to be the maid or like the house cleaner or something. He sees her looking at herself in the reflection of the glass, and she's admiring how beautiful her skin looks, which is strange, strange behavior for her to be doing. Why is she looking at her skin? Why is she looking at her the way she looks on the outside? Why is she admiring it at night? Gives you like a strange kind of creepy kind of feeling, right? And she's not even using a mirror. She's using a window which is um it's only reflective because it's nighttime. All right, so she's not even using a mirror, which is strange also. Um, and we later find out the reason behind all this. Okay, I'm trying not to spoil the thing for you because it's nicer, I think, if I tell you the story like this rather than just tell you exactly the thing. If obviously if you've seen the film, then you know what the reality is, why she's acting this way. Okay, so she's admiring her skin. She's admiring the way her skin looks, the beauty of it, her hair and everything. She's admiring it. Um, and then basically, something else strange happens. That's her admiring herself. Something else strange happens. Okay, which is that the man who is the supposed to be the groundskeeper basically starts to run at Chris full speed. And it's in the middle of the night, okay, which is strange. He starts to run at Chris. Okay, and again, Chris is shocked. He doesn't know what's going on. Now, the reason he actually went outside, as I said, was to smoke. Although it appears that he was almost led there in that the door was like slightly open for him, as if someone had been uh, in the room and someone had taken one of his cigarettes, or not taken one actually, had opened the bag and left the cigarettes at the top. Like the witch putting the candy outside the house in the story of Hansel and Gretel, and leaving crumbs through the forest to the house. So basically luring the kids in. Huh? So it's almost like this witch, who he basically meets waiting for him. This witch, she also created this setup to make him see the cigarettes, see the open door, and make the connection. Let me go and smoke outside. Okay, so she lured him to her den, to her house of horrors, okay, which is this room, so she can put her magic on him. Okay, this is what's gonna happen. So basically, this scene illustrates the key fundamental focus of this film, which is a psychological view of slavery and explaining how slavery works from a psychological perspective. Okay? Now, basically what happens, okay, is that she tells Chris, sit down with me. I'm a psychologist or they say psychiatrist. Excuse me. She say I'm a psychiatrist. Okay, whatever. Basically, she tells him like I'm a psychology person. So okay, sit down with me. Let's talk. All right. She asks him, "Are you comfortable?" He says, "Yeah." And then she's already told him that she's a hypnotist as well. Okay, she can hypnotize people. And hypnosis is the art, the skill of making people momentarily lose control of themselves, making them suggestible. Being suggestible means someone can influence you to do something or think something, believe something, behave in a certain way. Yeah, they can reprogram you, basically. They can go into your head and change it. So she tells him sit down, okay, and she starts to talk to him, okay. And what she also starts to do is to use this spoon and to scrape it against this cup. And as she does it, he starts to slowly fall into a trance. Okay, and he doesn't even realize that he starts to slowly fall under her spell. And what she does is she makes him remember the night of his mother's death. And he slowly begins to imagine it as if he is there in the current moment. Okay. And this basically makes him start to cry. Okay, cry uncontrollably like this. And he says, I can't control myself. Huh? I can't move. Sorry, he says. I can't move. She asks him, what are you feeling right now? And he says, I can't move. And what has happened at this point is she has essentially taken over control of him. She has enslaved him. She has enslaved him. And the way she has done it is via her words and her manipulation of his mind. And when this is done, she then basically kicks him into what she calls the dark place, which makes him feel like he is basically falling into like a dark hole. Okay, like this. Now he's completely gone. He has zero control over his body, zero control over himself. And what this film basically talks about in terms of what how slavery works is the enslaving, and I'll make it specific to what the topic is here about black people. The enslaving of black people, although it is true for any kind of slavery, but the enslaving of black people happened with the depersoning of black individuals. Okay? So, what slavery basically is that you take away a person's identity, you take away a person's personhood. In other words, you push them out of their own body, you push them out of their own mind, and you kick them into a dark place, okay, where they have no control over themselves. This is what slavery feels like. Like this. This is what it feels like. In that they are now a backseat passenger in their own body and mind. That's what slavery is. Okay. So the film very nicely illustrates this is what slavery feels like. That would be the identity of the person, the me, the I, the who I am. It's a very strange thing to think about because we don't, by default, we all understand by default that you have an identity, like a unique, you exist. You, Y-O-U, exist. And so it's a very strange thing to think about if to think about the idea of someone removing the you. This is what slavery is. This is what the film's talking about in terms of what slavery is. It's the removal of the I and the me and the from the person's body and mind. Yes. So if someone asks, for example, if I said to you, "Who are you?" You're going to tell me about your identity. Yeah, you're unique. You're going to tell me your name. You're going to tell me your age, maybe. You're going to say, "I am so and so. I live over here. I do this. I do that. I like this. I like that. My friend is this person. I go to school here. I want to do this. I want to do that." You have a whole list of sort of things which connected together form like the web of your identity. They are what you mean when you say I and me and so on. Yeah, when you someone says your name, that's what they're referring to. Yeah, they're not referring. When you say I, you're not referring to your body or like your arms and stuff. You're referring to the person inside. Yeah, slavery basically is removing the person inside. That's slavery. It's not about your. It's not about your chaining up your body, or it's not about beating you, or it's not about forcing you via fear, something like this. True slavery, as what happened with the black people in America or other people around the world. True slavery, when it is systematized, when it becomes the structure by which some people dominate other people and use them as property, basically. True slavery, when your children are born into slavery, true slavery is the removal of personhood. You have no identity. Your, your identity becomes, when you say your name, you don't have a name. You have the name your slave master calls you by. You see? When you say um where you're from, you don't have a place that you belong to. You belong to, I mean, the place that you own or a place that you can call home. You have the place your slave master allows you to stay in, allows you to sleep in, the house of your master. When you say you want to do this or you want to do that, you want to read this, you want to go watch this or do this thing, that thing, don't want to do this thing, you don't have any of these choices. The only thing you have is what your master tells you, do this, do that. You are an puppet, an instrument of his or her will. It's not what you want, it's what the master wants. You see, you have no person, there's no person inside. This is the extremely dark, twisted, true evil nature of slavery. That's what is capturing here. See, that's him, that's his person, his identity, him as a his humanness, his uniqueness, his individual Chris. That's Chris. Yeah? It's being thrown into a dark hole inside of himself. It's being kicked down into somewhere hidden. And what's being kept on the surface is a, traumatized, fear struck, fully controlled body. So slaves have their personhood removed and they're forced to become an empty shell, a body that the white master or just any master in the slave master dynamic that a master can control, another person can control. So they're made to be a shell, and them as a person gets kicked out of them, and the owner, slave master gets installed into them. So now they don't think with their own mind because they don't have a mind. They don't have a ability to think. Now they think with the mind of the master. That's what slavery is. Okay, that's what the film captures, basically. Okay, so Chris has this, and this is gonna play into like what happens in the film, what the plot of the film is. So Chris basically he thinks it was just a nightmare. Okay, so he he wakes up and he says, okay, it wasn't just a nightmare. But then he talks to this guy. This is the groundskeeper, the one that we seen at the beginning. Also, this is the one who was running, who we seen the night before, last night, right before he went into the hypnosis session with the mother. This is the guy he saw was running. This guy also talks with like a very weird old-timey accent that seems strange. Okay, and basically Chris talks to him. This is a weird face. Chris talks to him. Okay, and again you can see he's smiling, but it's like sinister. Yeah, fake face, fake face. Fake smile. Smile of a predator. That's the idea. So Chris talks to him, okay? And basically the guy tells him that, yo, I'm sorry that I scared you last night, but I was doing my exercise. I was running. Yeah, I was running, practicing my running. So the woman was looking at her beautiful her skin was and her hair. The man is admiring his ability to run fast. The man is admiring his ability to run fast. Excuse me. Okay, and these two are going to play a role again when this gets revealed of who they actually are. Okay. So, anyway, but basically what this tells Chris is that it wasn't a dream. Okay, it's like a shocking revelation. Excuse me, that it wasn't a dream, but it was actually something real happened. He really did get hypnotized. Okay, so the mother really did hypnotize him, which means that feeling he had of being kicked out of his body and put into the dark place was real also. And also her sort of torturing him with making him think about his mother's death was also real. So now he knows the mother is not a good person. Okay. And so now he basically talks to Rose. Remember, look at her, look at innocent. And like, look, she looks innocent again. And that's done on purpose, remember, yeah. Her whole thing is to be this innocent looking all American girl, uh, girl next door kind of vibe. Yeah, that's her position in the family. Each of the family members has a role. Her role is to be the innocent looking what's it called? Lure. Yeah, the thing that makes the fish bite onto the hook. That's her. Yeah, she's like the hook, the thing that grabs, in this case, black people out of the water and brings them to her house. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so there's basically a party gets thrown at their house, and all the guests, pretty much, all the guests are white, and all the guests are white, and they basically, when they meet Chris, they say like weird things to him. They say like, "Oh, black." This guy says, "Black is in these days." Bro looks like Colonel Sanders, Lokina, the KFC guy. He's like, "Black is in these days. Black is hip." This kind of thing. Like weird. They make like these weird kind of comments. He sees the woman, the black woman, and one thing, one symbol which I've not really been able to figure out yet is that he's a photographer. Okay, I don't really understand why he's a photographer or what symbolically that means. But I'm sure it has a deep meaning to it. Yeah, I'm not really sure why he's a photographer. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure. A photographer is what is a photographer? A person who takes pictures of things. Look through the camera, see something. Yeah, I'm not really sure yet. It's got something to do with his character, but I'll just be honest about it. I'm not sure. Okay, maybe one of you guys can figure it out. Excuse me. Yeah, maybe one of you guys can figure it out, but at this point, I'm not really sure. Anyway, so they're all making like weird comments. So he basically sort of goes off on his own and he doesn't want to talk to them and he wants to just he's acting like he's taking pictures of, the event, but he's basically now trying to pay attention to what's happening and he is at this point he's starting to realize, okay, things are like something's off about this house. All right. So let me now investigate. Okay, then he meets this guy. Okay. And this guy is here with this woman. All right, who's like way older than him. And they appear to be like together, like romantically. All right. Um, and this guy also talks in like a very old-timey accent. He doesn't talk normal, like how you would expect him to talk. He talks like, and I don't mean that in terms of like talking formally or talking, like proper English, quote unquote. I mean, he doesn't talk like someone who's alive at this time talks. Okay. I mean, he doesn't talk like he talks like someone from 100 years ago, something like that. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so there's something off about this guy too. Okay. And so she's showing him off. She's making him do spins. Like, and then basically Chris, and we'll come back to that guy in just a minute. Chris basically, he's tired of all these people. He goes and he thinks that he's met a friend. Excuse me, thinks that he's met a friend with this guy who is blind. Okay, so he comes and he sits down next to him, and the guy tells him I used to be a photographer. And then he became a famous, what's it called, art gallery director, and he's blind. Okay, he can't see. This guy's gonna be important later on in the film. All right. So anyway, Chris then goes back into the house because he wants to call his friend. Now, when he gets into the house, all of them are talking. This is a beautiful scene, yeah. The way this is done is like amazing. I wish I could play some for you, but when I play it, it gets glitchy. Yeah, I can't play it. But when he walks into it's a beautiful scene, yeah. And everyone in this film did a great job, yeah. All the actors, all the cinematographers, the music design, the costume design, the lighting, everything in this film is like perfect, basically. Huh? It's all like a big symphony which focuses and tells the key story very nicely. And it's like subtle and it's also not like melodramatic, being this is what if you want to say like what's truly woke in the good sense, this film is like that woke. You wake up if you watch this film. But it's not like overly done in the fake look at me, I'm better than you guys type way. It's like it's like digs into truth on like a very deep level. You need to watch this film like 4 or 5 times to really get to the heart of it. I've watched it like three. This will be my third time now watching it. I'll probably watch it more just to understand it more. Anyway, okay. Anyway, so he walks into the house, okay, and everyone in there is talking. Yeah, like you do at a party. But then, as soon as he goes upstairs, again, he starts to walk around. Right, all of the sound cuts out. All of these people go completely silent. Okay, all of these people go completely silent. So yeah, like this. Now look at that. Look how creepy that is. Like they're all. I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it. Like they're observing him. Like they're observing him like people watching an animal at a zoo. Huh? What's he gonna do next? Or more than that, actually. More than that. Like the like predators watching a animal, like a prey animal in a tree. Like a prey animal that's come out of its hideout or something like that. And it's like a pack of wolves or something watching a rabbit that's just crawled out of its hole. Something like that, yeah. So they all go completely silent, like lions on a hunt or wolves stalking a deer. Hmm? It's mad creepy. It's mad creepy. And basically, what it shows is that all of the people in the party, they're not here just to party, but they're here actually for another purpose, a more nefarious, a more malicious, malevolent, dark, evil purpose. Okay? And there's something evil about all of them. Right? So when he goes upstairs, he wants to call his friend. Okay, but the I believe his phone is being unplugged again. No, it hasn't. Okay, no, it hasn't. My bad. It was unplugged before. Wait, let me just double check my notes. Let me double check my notes. 52. 252. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so his phone was unplugged. My bad. Okay, so when he goes upstairs, he wants to call his friend. Yeah, he wants to call his friend up to tell him, bro, things are like weird here. Things are not right. These people are weird. They're strange. Yeah, something's going on. It's not right. I can't put my finger on it. And his phone has been unplugged from the charger. Okay, so when he's on the phone dies, and he doesn't have a chance to explain himself fully. He can only tell his friend some of the story, and his friend tells him, bro, you need to leave. You need to get out of there because things are not right. All right, so basically, then this woman, all right, who's supposed to be like the maid, kind of house cleaner, again, she's wearing this sinister kind of smile. Yeah, something's off about it. She basically comes into the room unannounced. Yeah, she doesn't knock or nothing. She just walks in, and she's like, "Ah, I must have been cleaning, and I unplugged your phone by mistake." Obviously, we know that that's not true, right? But she basically says, I was cleaning and I unplugged your phone by mistake, right? And basically, what happens is he gets to talking to her and he says something which triggers some weird change in her, okay? Which makes her now, you can see she's starting to cry. She's been shaken. And he basically says something like, I'm uncomfortable around this. I just don't usually feel comfortable around this many white people. Something like that. He's making a joke, yeah. He's like making a joke. He's not racist, but he's like cracking a joke. Probably in response to how all the different white people in the party were basically uh, insulting him in like a friendly kind of way. Yeah. Friendly on the face of it, I mean. Like they're saying black is in these days, or look at those arms, something like that, or look how look at your genetic development, things like that. Insulting him with a smile. That's a better way to put it. So he says to her, basically, I'm usually not comfortable around this many white people, indicating that there might be something dangerous about white people. Again, don't take this as a, don't be a radical now or an extremist and now hate white people or think white people are evil. That's retarded. Stupid, I should say. It's dumb, man. Basically, it's stupid to think that way. Yeah. And I know in some universities, because I actually seen it myself, they're actually teaching this kind of stupidity, which is like anti-white. What do they call it? The politics of whiteness or something. Yeah, it's stupid, man. Stupid, stupid. You can't beat racism by being a racist yourself. It doesn't make any sense. Yeah. Either we're all colorblind or we're gonna have division based on color. That's the only two options we have. Either we're colorblind or we have division based on color. Okay? And if you now develop a politics of based on a race or based on a and there is only one race anyways, the human race, but based on a color of people, a group of people, you now are feeding into the racism. Okay, you're creating a sort of supremacy yourself, which is not helpful. All right. So anyway, he basically says this thing, and um, it shakes her for some reason. It shakes her. Something happens inside of her, which makes her start to shake, and she starts to cry randomly, and he doesn't know yet what the heck just happened. Why is she crying like that? It's like something inside of her starting to wake up momentarily. It woke up. Like the victim inside of her woke up and showed itself. The trauma and tragedy inside of her woke up, yeah, and showed itself through her tears. Um, but she runs away, and she says like they've always treated me nicely, like that. And then she runs away. Okay, and he doesn't understand like why that happened. And now basically he goes outside. Okay, he goes outside, and this is going to be connected again once you find out the reality of who she is. He goes outside, and this guy again is talking, and um, yeah, is this when it happens? Okay, so this guy is talking. Okay, yeah. Okay, and now Chris at this point understands that something is wrong, so he low-key tries to take a picture of the guy, so then he can send it to his friend. Because he thinks like I recognize this guy. He looks familiar to me, but he's dressed weird. He talks like someone from 100 years ago. He's talking weird. He's dressed weird. Now let me take a picture of him, send it to my friend, and maybe he can figure out like why am I getting these weird vibes from the guy, and why do I think like I know him? Huh? So when he takes the picture, his phone flashes. Okay, and when the flash happens, the man starts to his nose starts to bleed, and it's like he is completely changed from how he was acting to now he becomes completely different, and he basically rushes Chris and he says, "Bro, you gotta get that out of here." And the way he talks is like how you might expect him to talk. And he talks like a normal person, basically. He said, "Bro, you need to get that out of here. Get out of here." He starts to shout, and this is where the name of the film comes from, Get Out. He rushes him, he says, "Bro, you need to get the out of here." Okay? And they basically grab him up and they stop him. Yeah. Now, this guy, I'll tell you something crazy. So this guy, you're not gonna believe this. This guy, guess who he is? This guy is, remember the guy in the beginning of the film? It's him. Look, you see? This is the guy who got kidnapped at the beginning of the film. Okay, and that's how Chris knows him. That's him. So it basically turns out, okay, wow, look at that. Look at that, right on point now. So right here, they're basically telling him, okay, don't worry about it, nothing happened, whatever. The guy had a breakdown or something. But it turns out that this guy was kidnapped, and then we're gonna find out that he was reported missing. He was reported missing for 6 months or something like that. All right. And the mom basically, she takes him into the room and she does her witchcraft on him, her hypnosis, and puts him back into how he normally acts. All right. And he comes back to Chris and he's like, "Yo, my bad. I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to scare you like that. You know, I was on my meds or something like that. Like that." And he's like, "Yo, my bad. I didn't mean to scare you like that. I was off the meds. I was tripping. My bad." He didn't talk like that, but he talks in the old timey again. Hmm? Sorry about that. So anyway, by this point, Chris has seen enough, and he's like, "All right, I need to get out of here. This is bad. Yeah, this something's going on with this family. These people are weird. I need to leave. Yeah, I need to dip." So he basically tells her, "Okay, I'm gonna leave, either with you or without you. I'm gonna leave you tomorrow. I'm gone." And she, at this point, says to him, "Okay, you know what? Uh, I love you, and I'm gonna be there for you. Yeah, I'm gonna leave with you." But then we basically find out the reality of what this party is, okay? And the party is essentially a slave buying auction, okay? It's a slave buying auction. And who's on sale? Chris. That's who's on sale. Chris with his camera, all right? And the way that the slave auction is done makes it even more creepy. Is it's done like silently. Okay, it's done completely silently with them holding bingo cards. So while he's talking to his girlfriend, or who he thinks is his girlfriend, the love of his life, her father and her family are selling him off to one of the people at the party. Okay, and the person that actually buys him is I can find it, is the guy who pretends to be uh, nice to him. the so-called art gallery owner. That's the guy who buys him. Okay, I don't think I can find it. Okay. The one who he sat down with the cane, and he's like, "Yo, I admire your work, this and that." The guy who became blind, he was a photographer first, and he became blind, and he became an art gallery director. That's the one who actually buys him. This guy here. Damn. Okay, seen him for a second yet? That guy. I want to keep on slick. Ah, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, basically the guy who pretended to be the art gallery or pretending to be nice to him. That's the guy who bought him. Yeah, that's the guy who paid for him to be a slave. Now, we don't quite know yet what this slavery exactly is. Okay, what we're assuming is the slavery is basically like classic physical slavery um in terms of basically like now the person does whatever you want them to do, and they pick your they pick your crops, they go and whatever, they do things you want them to do, yeah, like that. Physical slavery. You tell them do this, and then they do it. Okay. So that's what we're assuming at this point. Okay, that's what we think that the at this point we think the woman who's like the maid, she's a slave. We think she's a slave for the family. She cleans the house and all that. We think the man who's the groundskeeper, we think he's a slave too. He's forced labor on keeping the place looking nice. We think the young man who got kidnapped, we think he's a slave and he's owned by that woman, and now she's basically using him as like her, what would you say? Like her slavery for, intimacy. I don't want to be, what's it called, explicit here, but you know what I'm saying, yeah. Basically, she's abusing him, huh? I'll put it that way. She's abusing him. So we think this is what the nature of the slavery is. Yes, like they have a white master owned by a white master who tells them do this, do that, and they do it. Okay. So basically, Chris calls his friend and he's like, "All right, bro, I need to get out of here. These people are weird, and I've seen some things today that has got me shook." All right, and he basically takes a picture of the guy with the hat, the black guy with the hat, who flipped out and told me he need to leave. He sends that to his friend, and his friend now goes and runs like a database check, and he's gonna find out that that guy's been missing for like 6 months. All right. Now, while Chris is basically getting ready to leave, I think he's actually gonna leave this night. He doesn't want to wait anymore. Okay, he's gonna leave immediately. While he's in the room, sort of like packing his stuff, he goes into one of Rosie's cupboards. Okay, and he finds basically a box. All right, and he opens up the box. All right, and inside the box is a bunch of pictures of Rose, Rose with like a black person hugged up and like in like a relationship kind of poses. Right? He finds like a bunch of them, and and one sec, I went too far. Yeah, all hugged up and in different poses, and it turns out it's not just men. It's predominantly men. It's like five or six different black men. But it's also there's a picture in there of the woman who's the maid, who looks like the maid, who we think is the maid, I should say. The woman who, yeah, the black woman who we met in the kitchen and then who was crying, Rose with her too. So here, basically, the realization hits him. The penny drops that Rose is essentially she's the what's it called? She's the hook. She's the lure. She's the sweet, innocent looking white girl who basically lures in the black person for them to be enslaved. Yeah. She is the honeypot, the predator with a pretty face. And her job is to lure in these people, and he basically realizes that uh uh not just the woman who's in the kitchen enslaved, who he thinks and we think is a slave in the kitchen, but also the groundskeeper, she's with him too. And so he realizes, okay, he's just another one of these. Yeah, she doesn't love him at all. She's just basically tricked him and lied to him, manipulated him to get him to the house, so he can become a slave as well. Okay, and now he realizes, okay, I need to get out of here. Yeah, this is the moment he realizes, he's like, bruh, I got a dip. So he tells her, okay, we gotta go now. Okay, and you can tell, even though he knows now that she's not to be trusted, he's still waiting for her to help him to leave. Yeah, he's not. You would think at this point he would be kicking her out the way, he'd be pushing her out the way, and he'd be like running out the house, and he'd be like grabbing her bag off her, yeah, uh, pushing her out the way, grabbing the bag, getting the key himself. They're looking for the car key right now for her car. He'd be running it. He's still waiting. So you can see, even up to this point, he still hasn't fully transformed into the man that he needs to transform into to be able to deal with this oppressive force. He's still internally afraid and uh, vulnerable and weak, weak and like kind of broken in the inside. He's not ready. He's not strong enough yet on the inside to stand up to her and the family. He hasn't transformed yet. Okay, he's still in the childlike energy and way of thinking and being. Yeah, even though he knows that she's betrayed him, he knows something really bad is happening in the house. He knows that she's tricked him to be here. Still, he isn't lashing out at her, and still, he isn't taking control of himself. He is still under her spell, allowing himself to be under her spell. He has not yet taken control over himself. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, he says to her, "Okay, Rose, get the keys. We gotta go." Okay. So he's still lying to himself to some extent, also in terms of like not recognizing fully that she's a predator. So like, why would you take her with you? Okay, why would you not just kick her out the way and get the keys yourself? Anyway, he basically says to her, okay, look, Rose, we need to leave. He goes downstairs, and now all of the family members, the mother, the father, the brother, they're all waiting there for him. So she's obviously told them, like, this guy's gonna try and escape. And they all basically gang up on him. He has like a real panic attack here, and he's unable to like stop them. Okay, he tries to fight a little bit, and then the mother uses her magic, her hypnosis with the little teacup thing, and he falls completely under her spell, and he falls apart. He just basically he collapses. Okay, he collapses, and now basically the friend tries to call his phone, but it keeps going on voicemail. In other words, no one's picking up. It's just going to like an answering kind of machine. And then he wakes up in this room, which, fun enough, has a deer on the wall. And in the beginning of the film, and this is in the basement. Okay, this is happening in the basement right now, which has a deer. So this is in the basement, and there's a deer on the wall. Okay. In the beginning of the film, when Chris first meets the father tells Chris, "I hate deers." Remember Rose hit the deer and killed it by accident. By accident, when it jumped in front of the car, she killed it. Um, the father kind of celebrates, and he's happy. He says, "I'm very happy you killed that deer. I think you did a great service." They are like a disease. They're spreading. They come here and they're like a disease, huh? We need to kill as many as we can. I hate them. And then when he walks past the basement door, he says that's the basement. Is nothing down there except black mold. Mold. So you can see the true nature of his hatred towards black people is revealed with the combination of these two. Okay? Which is that he sees black people as like animals that need to be killed, like a disease which he hates and wants to stop spreading, and also as like a mold. A mold is an unwanted growth which takes up uh, spaces in your house and makes nice looking things turn horrible, which is essentially the excuse me, which is essentially the racist, supremacist way of looking at other people. Okay? If you listen to white supremacists today, or supremacists of any kind, even, but especially if you listen to white supremacists today, they say things like this. Okay? Even the ones who say they're not white supremacists, but they talk about things like being, we need to go back to having a country for European people or people from a European background or something like this. You need to have a country of white people. Stupid things like this. Now, what they'll say is they'll talk about black people and other colored people in this kind of way. They say things like they ruin everything. They say things like they're like they're like a disease spreading. They're like they make nice looking white things. They make them ugly. They break things like like he's saying about the mold. They multiply like the deer. They multiply and they ruin everything. They ruin civilization. I want to go back to having having civilized white people who keep everything nice and tidy. That's like the stupid kind of words they talk and the belief they have. And this is the belief of any supremacist group, is what they think. Which is again why I'm trying to push you guys away from the being radicalized into anti-white racism. Okay, which is not, again, it's not the answer. That's another stupid way of thinking. This is a supremacist view. Okay, even when it was just all white people, quote unquote white people. What does that even mean? Yeah, but in any case, even when it was just white people, say in different countries, like even just say for example here in Scotland, excuse me, the wars between the Scottish and the English, say here in the UK, the wars between the Scottish and the English, those were all white people fighting each other. The English saw the Scottish as same way, like a mold. They seen them as a mold, like deer that ought to be killed. That they were spreading, they're wild. They see, things like this. They're barbarians. They're wild. They're not civilized. They're not cultured. The word barbarian is a word to describe white people. Uh, by the Romans, I believe they're the ones who came up with this word. And they are white people from the North African, what they call Barbary coast. Okay, that's where the word comes from. Huh? Or when the Romans went to Germany and they seen the Gauls, the German people, they described them as what? Mold, savages, and so on. So the point is, it's not a color thing; it's a supremacy thing. Okay, it's a stupid supremacy thing. All right. In any case, specific now to the American experience, the black experience in America, the master would see, and this is again in any kind of slave situation, the master would see the slave as a mold, as a as a disease. Okay, the master would see the slave as a disease. Okay, and so as a nuisance, as an unwanted thing that deserves to die and deserves to be killed, a growth on the planet that does not deserve to live and is harmful to everything. Okay, and this is what is how they justified their brutal treatment of the slave. Because what do you do to mold? What do you do to a pest? What do you do if you got a rat in your house? Or like like uh, like a wasp, something like that. What do you do to it? You spray it with you'll spray it with anything at you. Like if you're afraid enough or disgusted enough, yeah. If there's stinky mold in your house, what are you gonna do? You're gonna not even gonna touch it with your hands. You're gonna spray it with bleach. Yes. So this is how they saw the black people. This is how they saw the slaves, like that, like like stinky mold, which deserved to be sprayed with bleach. And so this is what justified in any kind of the way you get also this is also how you get from supremacy to genocide. This is the connection. The connection between supremacy and genocide is this connection. Okay, seeing the person as something disgusting, something worthy of being killed, something harmful, something which is actively destroying things. It's a very slippery slope. Okay, from there to there, it's slippery slope. Um, when Hitler began his campaign, political campaign, 20 years before 20 years before any Jewish people were killed, uh, in prison camps and things like this. 20 years before Auschwitz and all this happened, maybe 25 years, um, the talk about Jews and non-Germans, more fundamentally, the talk about non-Germans was, or non-Aryans as they called them, and people who are not part of the German people, the talk of them was not that they deserve to be killed. Okay, the talk of them was just that they're not German. Okay, they're not Aryan. They're not, they're not like us. Even though people say that today, these days, as a good thing, but they're not like us. They're like something else. And so we don't want to kill them. We just don't want them to be among us. We don't want them to be around us. Okay, which is scarily enough what you're hearing today. Some extremists say. We don't want to kill these people. We just want them to not be around us. We want to live. Don't use examples of other countries. We want to be like the Japanese. What's wrong with it? Why can't we live among ourselves? The Japanese do it. What the heck kind of stupidity is this? Excuse me. As if Japanese people are all one, a monolith. As if you don't look at their own ancestry, that you'd see people in there from different regions of Asia, and as if they don't have infighting in themselves. Huh? It's just like very, very uneducated, unsophisticated ways of thinking. It's like saying, it's like now in America, people are saying, we want Europeans. America is a European nation. As if Europe wasn't killing itself for 1,000 years, at war with itself. And the British saw the French as peasants and worms. And the French saw the British as brutes. And the Spanish saw the British as brutes. And then in the 1900s, the Russians with their empire, uh, or the Soviets, saw the rest of the world. How did they see the rest of Europe? Or Germany, how did he see with Hitler and the Nazi Party? How did they see the rest of Europe? Yeah. Anyways, it's a very unsophisticated way. But my point I was making is, the point I was making before, okay, is that the the process doesn't start with wanting to kill. The process doesn't start with saying we need to kill these other people, whoever the other is. The process starts with saying they're just not the same as us. Okay, they're something else. It's an othering of them first. And then after the othering of them, it's a disgust towards them. It's they're not like us, they're something else, and they are lower than us. And they are not just they're a nuisance. We just don't want them around us, we don't want them to be with us. They're a nuisance, they're a problem. They cause trouble, they're harmful, they're dangerous, they're criminals, they're rapists. They come from mental asylums. They're pouring in here from jails and mental asylums. Like you might have heard someone say. Germans should be proud of their history. I've heard someone else say, Germans should not be guilty, should not feel guilty for their history. They should be proud of their history. Um, Germany is a great nation. For 1,000 years, it's had culture. So it starts off like this. So if you read Hitler's manifesto, when he first started his political career after he finished his participation in the Great War, in the First War. So he participated in the First War, and then after he left, he got injured, and he was given like a medal for courage. Um, in any case, then he became a politician. Yeah, I think he was like in his 30s at the time. He became a politician, and he started to campaign, became politically active. He was not in the mainstream at this time. Okay, he was still pushed out to the fringes, and he was, remarkably enough, Germany was extremely liberal at this time, believe it or not. Germany was about as liberal as most Western countries are today. They were about as liberal. They had like they had like they had like live nude shows. They had like people from all different places in the world were like, it was like a very liberal place. Yeah, basically is what I'm trying to get to. So um yeah, it was like a very liberal, carefree kind of place. It was almost like California. It's like if you look at the old Germany before the Nazi Party, it looks like that pretty much. All right, so when Hitler started his career, and we'll get back to the film in a second, but it's important for me to talk about this connection, okay, between how do you get from othering and supremacy to genocide. When he started his career, he had this opening document, okay, which him and some other people, there was a philosopher, Nazi philosopher, I forget his name, but they basically put together this 25 point document, or 26. There's a bunch of points. I don't remember the exact number of their like manifesto, their goals for what they would want to achieve if they got to power. This is 25 years before he actually got into power. This is before the wars, before the Second World War, everything. Germany is very liberal at this time. Okay, he's on the fringes with this party. He's like outsider. The German government and everything, they look at him as like, you guys are weird. Stay over there. We don't agree with you. We don't like you. Stay over there. Yeah. One of the points on this, okay, was that Germany must be for German people. Germany must be for German people. Another of the points is we do not see, or we do not view things as from an individual point of view, but we will view things from a collective point of view. In other words, we don't see individual people. We don't see individual people. Okay, we see collectives. Okay, we see collectives, meaning we are a German people, a German nation. Okay, these Jewish people, they have their own people. These black people have their own people. These brown people have their own people, and so on. Okay, they're not among us. They're not one of us. Okay, they're not Aryan like we are. The funny thing about the Aryan is, as far as I'm aware, they come from India, yeah, which is kind of, I don't know, bro was thinking yet. But anyway, I don't know if his geography was on point yet. But anyway, this is so the othering was there right from the beginning. Okay, there was no talk about killing or anything like that. It was just, we are German people. All the government will be focused on German people first and only, and everyone else can go away, leave our country, and focus on themselves. Okay, they're not gonna be a parasite like mold on us anymore. We're gonna kick them out. Okay, we're gonna kick them out, and they can go home to wherever they come from. Yeah, but you can see the reverberations, and then eventually, this step by step by step by step by step, with him gaining a little bit more power, him organizing a sort of pseudo police force, like a paramilitary, organizing protests. He got arrested one time, which is when he wrote Mein Kampf. He got arrested because he tried to do something. I can't remember exactly what. Some anti-government. I think he tried to do a coup of the government, and he got arrested. This is when he wrote Mein Kampf while he was in jail. Okay. In any case, he slowly. From there, he developed more power because he developed more followers, more extremists got under his way of thinking, until eventually, he got into power. Okay. And then he started to implement his plans. And understand as well, he got into power legally. Okay. He got into power through a vote. Because the way the structure was that his party was able to, excuse me, his party was able to take some percentage of the seats. He's able to take some part of the government. Excuse me. Okay, and then they did some kind of violent thing where he was able to collectivize all the power to himself. The head of the government basically handed him over the reins, and from there he became de facto uh, king. Yeah, he became de facto emperor, Führer. He became the father of the government of Germany. Anyway, the point is that okay, so from there, then the evil kind of manipulation with words started to spread. And eventually it flipped from we are the German people, we want to care about our own country first, we want to take care of ourselves, let everyone else take care of themselves. We don't hate anyone, but they can go live somewhere else. We just want to look after ourselves. We want to put ourselves first. We want to put America first. We want to put Britain first. We want to put Germany first. Everyone else can look after themselves, yeah. And we want to care about the German people, which means white skin and so on. What else? Eventually, it flipped to these people are now parasites. These people are not only do we not want them to not only do we not hate them, but like, and we don't have any ill will. We just want to focus on ourselves and to do good for us. Now we want to kick them out of our land. We want to kick them out. Okay, we want to export them, expel them, I should say. We want to expel them from our country. Okay, and that flipped into, you know what? These guys are such a problem that we're gonna do humanity a favor. We're just gonna get rid of them. That's how it flipped. You see the steps? Okay, you see the steps like that. Palestine people came, yeah. Zionists came. They started out with, okay, we just want to build a little state, or we want to build a homeland for ourselves because we're under persecution. Funny enough, from this Hitler thing that I'm talking about. So we want to build a homeland for ourselves. Eventually, the homeland gets a little bigger, a little bigger. People get kicked, or their land gets bought, whatever, whatever, whatever. We want to focus on ourselves. We want to do good for our people, for Jewish people, for members of this Israeli state. Okay. And you guys do you. We're gonna do us. We don't hate you. We just wanna do us. Okay. And eventually it flips into these guys hate us. They want us to die. The Palestinians want to kill us. They want us to die. Look how they attack us. They're rapists. They're terrorists. Now we need to fight back. Okay, and that's how you get schools getting bombed and kids getting sniped and all of that. Okay. So that's how you go from supremacy to genocide. And again, it's really important, okay, to remember again my key thing that I'm saying again and again. Okay. The reaction, the correct response to this is not to become reactionary and to collectivize people yourself. Okay. Now to say, so white people are evil or Jewish people are evil. Yeah. That's the wrong answer. That's dumb. Or everyone who lives in Israel is evil. It's dumb. Okay. Stupid. That's how you get to the problem in the first place. You need to just treat people as individuals. Individuals. Everyone is an individual. And we're all human. We're all part of the same collective. If you want to collectivize people, put them in a human collective. Okay? Okay. Anyway, so that was a bit of a detour, yeah, but I think it was worth it. Okay, so he's in the basement now. And what's happening here is basically he's getting the answers now are going to be told to him. So this is the father of the family, it's the grandfather of the family, okay? And he basically talks about how he developed this system, which he calls the coagula. And the coagula, what does coagula mean? So coagula is a Latin word, okay, which means to break something down and to reform it as something new. That's coagula. You might have heard it from coagulant or something like that when you cut yourself. And growth forms, okay, where you cut yourself. A new growth forms to give you like new skin. Yeah. So he basically talks about how they created this method, all right, where they take uh essentially they take a black person, okay? They take a black person and they do a surgery on them, okay? Yeah, this is the friend trying to like ask for help. Okay, so they take a black person, they do a surgery on them, and what they do is they remove the black person's brain. First, they do the hypnosis thing, which kicks out their identity, okay? Like we've seen. It kicks them out of the driver's seat, kicks them out of the driver's seat, okay? Then, to finish the process, okay, they do a surgery where, yeah, okay. So then they do a surgery where they take the white person's brain, essentially, or most of their brain, and they attach it, they cut out the black person's brain, and they put the white person's brain inside of the black person's skull, attaching it to their nervous system and their like brain stem, spinal cord kind of thing. And effectively what this does is it replaces the black person's mind with a white slave master's mind. And so you can see everything that I was talking about before about how true slavery is mental in nature, is psychological in nature, is captured in that image. True slavery is taking the white slave master, or not even white, but the slave masters. True slavery is taking the brain of the slave master. It's cutting out the brain of the slave and replacing it with the brain of the slave master. So the slave has no brain of their own. They have no identity, no personhood. All they are is a body with a slave master's brain inside them, talking through them, operating through them, living through them. You see? Excuse me. So for the black people who were enslaved in the American experience, fundamentally their personhood, their identity was ripped out and replaced with the white slave master, slave owner. So now the black person became a mouthpiece, a it's not even a puppet yet because a puppet has strings. They became a vessel for the white owner to inhabit, to live through. You see, it's much more insidious, it's much more evil than just how we think about slavery normally. We think about slavery normally like you're a person, I'm a person, I tell you what to do, you obey. But the film, the way it describes slavery more accurately is that I'm a person, you're a body. You don't even have to think to obey because I just do it. Yeah, what I think is what you think. You don't have a brain. That's true slavery. Okay, in the actual sense, the structural sense, when it becomes part of the law and the government and everything like this, that's what true slavery, true supremacy is what it looks like. Excuse me. So we find out basically, okay, that the person, like this is the guy who bought Chrissy's body, essentially, who bought Chris. It's the photographer guy, remember I said, who's blind now. And he tells Chris, it's nothing personal. I just want your eyes. I want your eyes. And this basically tells us, and Chris is shocked, he can't believe it. This basically explains to us what the fundamental motivation, what the fundamental motivation of slavery, or one of the fundamental motivations of slavery actually was, which is beyond hatred and supremacy, seeing yourself as above this person. Therefore, they should just do whatever you want them to do, and seeing yourself as being merciful to them because you should kill them since they are like a nuisance, a mold, a plague that should be wiped out, but you mercifully let them live, and instead they just become your object of your will. They do what you say, and you know best since you're better than them. You're superior to them. But what it actually demonstrates is that there is another motivation which is hidden inside all of that, which is the motivation of envy. In that the slave owner, slave master was jealous of the slave. And we see this with this woman who, when she's looking at her skin and looking at how beautiful her skin was, this is an indication of how the slave owners and masters were jealous of the skin of the slaves, how nice it was, and the hair. And the photographer is jealous of Chrissy's eye, how he can see things, how he can his artistic nature, how he can look at the world and photograph it. He's jealous of it. He wants it for himself. So it's a sick mixture of hatred and false supremacy, which surrounds an envy. You enslave the person because you are jealous of them. You desperately want to be them. Yeah. And this is like a very nice critique inside the film of the tragedy of the situation, in that the slave believes the master is better than me in every single way, and I am lucky for the master to keep me alive, to feed me, and so on. And I'm nothing. I'm worse than anything. God is punishing me. Probably they believe this kind of idea, and the master is greater than me in every way, yeah, because they have all the power and I have none. But the critique in the film is of the tragedy of it is that the master is jealous of the slave, and they hate them so much because they are jealous of them. They envy them. They want to be them. And this would be the critique of when, like, say, white in the past. I'll put it this way so you guys don't get radicalized. When the white owner saw the black slave and saw how nice her skin was, saw how nice her hair was, saw how strong naturally the bodies of the slaves were, and they wanted it for themselves, but they were jealous of it because they couldn't have it. They weren't born that way. Yeah, so it's like this envy which makes them hate them. It's sort of like and it's that's like kind of an empowering kind of idea too, to I guess the filmmakers trying to put in the mind of any people who feel inferior kind of idea. Okay. It's sort of like, so here he is. Um, this idea of punishing someone, torturing someone because of your envy towards them is sort of uh, like when you have like a woman who's like a beautiful woman, who's like a great woman, beautiful, great, kind, wonderful woman, whose husband beats her and seemingly beats her for no reason that you can tell. Yeah, she's like a very, you can't tell you why does he beat her, but she's like very nice. It's not like she's not like BPD kind of. She's not like the she slaps you and then okay, now you're in a fight. She's not like that. She's like s- she seems to be very like innocent, pure. Her she's beautiful to look at, and she's beautiful like inside. And these cases happen from time to time, and but he beats her badly. He beats her and abuses her in different ways. So you don't understand why does he beat her? Excuse me. The critique in the film would be, from the film's perspective, he beats her because he hates how beautiful she is. He hates how ugly he is and how beautiful she is, both inside and out. He hates how angelic she looks and how angelic she is on the inside. He hates it. It burns him. It's like in the Clone Gatherers, there's a character called Durar who hates the Clone Gather. He hates the brothers, the Clone Gatherers. He hates Callum especially. Um, and it burns him when he looks at Callum. Okay, because he sees he sees Callum's kindness. He sees his softness and so on, and he hates him. He hates him for it. Um, so in any case, the point is, okay, if you think about this, I can make it even simpler for you. The point is, in another example would be like the person in class, like the very good student in class who's like always getting the answers right for things. They're early, they're very polite, they're nice to the teacher, and they become the bully victim. Why? Because the other kids are envious of how seemingly smart this kid is. Huh? They're envious that this kid is so smart that they get things right. They hate that, and so they want to punish them for it. So the true tragedy with the slavery is the additional to the control and depersoning, the depersoning of the person of the slave. The other tragedy of it is it's based on an envy which if the slave understood that this person sees me as better than them, then they would never accept being enslaved in the first place. That's like the critique the film is trying to put across. Okay? And obviously the reality of this is that one, envy is stupid. Two, supremacy is stupid. All of us have gifts, talents, and weaknesses. We're all good at some things, not good at some things. Envy is completely useless. If you envy someone, it's useless. You don't want to look outward, you look inward. Look inward instead. Notice your own gifts. Find them and master them to the best of your ability, and then you will have something to be proud of rather than this weak kind of uh, outward looking hatred. Okay? Alright. Anyway, so basically right now he feels like, alright, bro, it's over for me. I'm dead. Yeah, basically they're gonna cut my head out. They're gonna cut my brain out, and it's GG. Yeah, pretty much. Okay, then we learn basically that the father's role in the film, the dad's role in the film, is he's a brain surgeon, neurosurgeon, and he's the one who does the surgeries. Okay, he's the one who cuts the uh, white, soon to be inhabitor of the slave. The master, he cuts the master's brain and puts it in the slave's head. Okay, that's his job. This is the son. He works as assistant. Also, he's obviously part of the kidnapping squad if they need it. Excuse me. So basically what happens is he starts to do the surgery on the photographer's head. He starts to like cut his brain out, and he tells his son, "Okay, go get Chris." And um, Chris basically puts some of the cotton from the sofa. He puts it into his ears. Okay, and by doing this, he basically blocks himself off from the verbal manipulation of the family. Yeah, they can no longer verbally manipulate him. Essentially, it takes away the master's power. Yeah, which is essentially with speech. That's the primary power. It's with speech, lying, deception, all that. By covering his ears up, he now says, "I'm not listening to your lies anymore." And this is the moment where he's basically transformed now from the boy who is vulnerable, doesn't know himself, doesn't know who he is, doesn't know his strength, his power. He's now transformed into the man who's gonna perform a slave rebellion. Okay, he's gonna fight against the slave masters. And the first thing he does basically is he kills this, what's it called? The son. Okay, he hits him with a snooker ball. Okay, and then the the dad basically goes and is like, okay, where's the son? And then uh, Chris basically picks up the deer antlers and he kills the dad also, okay, with the deer antlers, which is a bit ironic since the dad wants to kill the deers, which is another way of saying he wants to kill black people. And then Chris basically kills him with the deer antlers. And this kind of this sequence here of him doing his rebellion is like I guess kind of the filmmaker taking enjoyment of the idea of and the filmmaker is black. Yeah, so I guess it's him taking enjoyment of his ancestors or taking like kind of revenge for his ancestors, something like that, yeah, who were enslaved. Like him enjoying the idea of the slave masters being killed by the slaves, like as a revenge kind of thing. Okay. It's like a cathartic kind of sequence or scene, meaning taking like feeling relief and joy from watching a person who's about to be enslaved rise up against their oppressor. Yeah, that's the idea of the sequence. Okay, so he kills the dad basically, then he goes downstairs and here he meets the witch. Yeah, he uses her hypnosis. There's her tool, yeah, her wand. He meets the primary slave creator, which is the woman, okay, the mother. And he basically breaks the cup. Okay, they both go for it at the same time. The cup breaks, which means now she's completely powerless. Yeah, he's broken her spell. And even if you look at him now, yeah, like compare how he looks here. 118. Okay, compare how he looks here. Look how chill he is. Yeah, he's got blood all over him, but he's completely chill. Yeah, he's not panicked. Look at his face here. 118:27. Okay, look at his face here to like any of the other scenes. Look at his face here even. That's a great comparison. Look at this. To all of these scenes where he seems completely lost. Hmm? Lost, afraid, not knowing what's going on. Yeah, always in a state of panic, needing help, needing protection, needing someone to save him. Yeah, always on edge, never sure of himself, waiting for his girlfriend or someone else to reassure him, to hug him like this. Yeah, he's like a boy, scared, afraid, a victim. He's a victim, pretty much. See, crying, and then you compare that to here. Yeah, when he starts to get his revenge. Now look at this. Look at this. Look how chill he is. Look how calm he is. And this is after she stabbed him in the hand with the knife. And he's covered in blood. Look how chill he is. You see? He has transformed. He is no longer a victim. He's no longer disempowered or weak. He is now empowered. He's now strong. He can stand up for himself. His personhood and manhood has been restored. Yeah, he's strong and powerful now. He's empowered. He's no longer vulnerable to being enslaved or weak, slave-like in his uh, internal state. He is now a master, but master over himself. He has taken the position of master over himself. He no longer has a master. He no longer wants a master in terms of being someone to save him, kind of thing. Now he is a master over himself, and he kills her too. Okay, he kills her. Yeah, he kills her too. Makes her stab herself, basically. Okay, and this is this the brother? Yeah, okay, so he actually doesn't kill the brother, but he knocks him unconscious with what's it called? Well, what do you call it? He knocks him unconscious, I guess, with the snooker ball. I thought he killed him, yeah, but he didn't kill him. Okay, so he wakes up and he puts Chris in the choke that he wanted to put Chris in before. This is a rear naked choke. Don't recreate this on your friends, yeah. You need to be careful with this. Rear naked choke. When applied correctly, the person will be unconscious within 10 seconds. If you hold the choke for 30 seconds to a minute, you could give them brain damage. You hold it for longer than that, they can die. So don't play around with this, yeah. Be extremely careful. In any case, so this is what he wanted to do to him all along. And the rear naked choke, um, the way it ties into the idea of slavery and the black slave experience is what the choke basically recreates is being hanged. That's what it recreates. Um, when someone is hanged, the the rope doesn't primarily. There's two ways that people get choked, pretty much, or strangled. One way is to choke this thing here at the front, okay, your windpipe, which is very painful. It's very painful, but it's not really that. It's painful, but it's not actually that effective. The choke, which is actually dangerous, and again, I'm telling you all this so then you don't do this to someone, and also you can protect yourself against it. Okay, it's not advice for you to use it. It's very dangerous. Yeah, don't be stupid. It's not a game. Yeah, it's not a game. So the choke, which is actually effective, which you see people do like in the UFC and things like this, which is what he is attempting to apply to Chris. The choke, which is actually effective, is the one that uh, attacks what you call the carotid arteries, it's the sides of the neck. Okay, and it applies a squeeze like this. Yeah. And what this does basically, it cuts off the blood to the brain, which is why people go unconscious very quickly, like in 10 seconds, or less if you do it properly. Um, Now, again, what this recreates is when someone gets hanged, that's what gets affected. The rope squeezes around the sides, makes the person pass out, and it's held for long enough that the brain, the blood stops to the brain, and it gets held for long enough that the person essentially goes brain dead. They die. Um, so anyway, my point was that this is what he's doing. It. He's trying to hang him. That's what I was gonna. The point I'm trying to make. He's trying to hang him, which is what he wanted to do all along. Which is why he wanted to do it on him. And he said, "Let me show you something cool." At the dinner table, he wants to hang him. He hates him. He has a sadistic kind of slant to him. For the other ones, you could think maybe they're just in it for the money, or they just hate. They have a hatred towards black people. They have a hatred towards them. For him, it's not just hatred, but it's enjoyment of watching them suffer. It's an enjoyment of causing pain to them. You see? Which is why he's trying to hang him. You see, that's the connection. That's the sick connection between it. But again, please don't try and do this with your friends. Don't try and play around with this stuff. It's not a joke. Okay? You don't want to mess around and ruin someone else's life, ruin your life. Please be careful. All right? Be careful. If someone puts you in this choke, yeah, I'll teach you the defense. Yeah, I won't teach you how to do it, but I'll teach you the defense. The way you escape this, and we're almost done with the film yet, but the way you escape this, okay, is you need to grab this hand at the top, okay, and you need to pull this hand down to your side, like this. Pull it down to your side, and you tuck it under your arm, like this, okay? So now his arm would be like this. You tuck it under your arm, like this. And now he's only choking you with one arm, which is like this, which you can grab the wrist and pull down. And now you're not being choked anymore. As long as you keep, and then you shrug your shoulders and tuck your chin. Now you can't be choked. Okay, and the point is, focus on the hands. Don't worry about anything else. Focus on the thing that's trying to go around your neck. Okay, put two of your hands on whichever arm he's trying to choke you with, like this. And that's how you don't get choked. All right. Don't try and poke his eyes or anything. That's not gonna work. Grab the hand. Grab the hand. Unlock the choke. Put it under your arm. Grab the other one. Pull down. Shrug. That's it. Protect your neck. All right. That's how you don't get choked out. All right. Or just don't get into fights in the first place. All right. Anyway, so basically, he tries to do that to Chris. Chris manages to get out, and he kills him basically. Okay, he's able to get free, and then he kills him. All right. So then, basically, this is so funny. So basically, Rose, while this is all going on, while her latest victim, she believes is having his brain cut out. So she believes Chris at this moment is having his brain cut out. and he's having some random guy's brain put into his head. She is completely relaxed and chill, and for her, it's been a good day. It's funny she's drinking milk. It's obviously an allusion to the other themes. Yeah, she's drinking milk. Obviously represents the white slave master, drinking the milk. So anyway, for her, she's very happy. She's just chilled out. I guess she's like had a shower and stuff. She's had like a bath. She's like changed her clothes. She's like chilled. And what is she doing? Okay, besides drinking milk, what is she doing? She's looking for her next target, her next victim, and which is another black person. And um, it specifically is a athlete. And again, this is a critique. This is a more radical critique, which is the idea that white women will target high profile athletes who don't, black athletes primarily, who are not aware of the danger or their danger, and then basically they get them into like a bad situation. Either they make them get pregnant and then they have their kid and then put them on child support. And so then they like just come up, they get paid a lot of money, or they accuse them of something, get them put in jail, take their money, and so on like that. Yeah. Again, this is more like a radical critique, and this is too close and too inside the racism, anti-white racism, which is, yeah, I don't agree with you. It's not good. But it is a sentiment that people do feel, yeah, that's what I should say. People feel this way. They believe that this is a reality. Yeah, like there are white women out there that target these athletes and things. Again, I don't believe it's true, yeah, again, it's not. It's dumb on its face, yeah. Collectivizing white women and saying they're like this. Again, this goes to the heart of the problem, which is the cause of all this stuff, yeah. Um, okay, anyway, so that's what she's doing. Yeah, she's looking for her next target, pretty much. Okay. So by this point, Chris has escaped the house. Okay, he just forgot about her. He just left her in her room. He escaped the house and he goes into the car, which is the brother's car, and he finds the helmet. Okay, that the guy at the beginning of the film when he kidnapped. Remember, he kidnapped the guy with the hat. He finds the helmet in his car. Okay, so this confirms that he was the one at the beginning. Yeah, the one who did the kidnapping at the beginning. It was the brother kidnapping that man with the hat. Okay, so now he's about to leave, and he accidentally runs over the black woman who was in the kitchen, the maid-looking woman. Okay, he runs her over, and he's about to drive off, but then he remembers his mother and how no one helped her, and he feels bad because he's still a good person. So he goes and he picks her up. Okay, now we find out who she actually is. We find out what her identity is, and it turns out, okay, that this woman, oh, she's going crazy now. Okay, this woman is actually Rosie's grandmother. How creepy is that shot? This woman is actually Rosie's grandmother. Yeah, so this black woman who Rose found and made her fall in love and all that, she had the surgery done to her with her brain cut out. And Rosie's grandmother, old grandmother, her brain was put inside of this black woman. And that's why she talks old timey. That's why she talks in that weird, and smiles in that weird predatory way. So she's the slave owner inside this black woman. Okay? And so she basically, and Chris doesn't know this obviously, so she basically starts to attack Chris while he's trying to drive off. Okay, and she makes him crash the car. Okay, she tries to attack him and she makes him crash the car. Okay, which basically she ends up dying because of that. Yeah, because he crashes into like a tree. Okay, now he gets out the car. Okay, and the man who was outside, the groundskeeper, he runs after Chris. Okay, and he starts to strangle him. And it turns out basically, yeah, that this man, you see the mark on his head, the surgery mark. This man is Rosie's grandfather. So the woman was Rosie's grandma. The man is Rosie's grandfather, living inside of these black people who have been, their bodies have been taken over, basically with this surgery, the coagula surgery. How creepy is that? Yeah. So that's their true identity. The reason he was running, and he said, "I'm practicing my running," is because he was enjoying having the physical strength of the black man. He was loving experiencing that physical strength and power of the black man. The reason she was looking at her skin and admiring it was she was loving having the physical skin and beauty of the black woman. She was admiring it. Slave master admiring the thing that they were envious of, that they wanted. Yeah. So this is the connections get made. Yeah, and that's how we connect the dots, basically. Okay, so he basically tackles Chris. He tackles Chris, and he's trying to kill him. All right, and he's trying to kill him, and basically what happens is he, Chris is able to flash his what's it called? Chris is able to flash the phone while he's trying to strangle him, and it basically knocks him back into his old self. So the phone flash seems to um knock the person back into like their old, whatever little bit of the old person is living there. The light makes them reappear momentarily at least. Okay, which is again like a sort of metaphor, which is inside the slave, deep inside the slave, there is a part of themselves hidden in that dark place. And once they see the light, that person can come out again. Okay, but it's difficult because it's really hidden down. So anyway, she now, this crazy girl, she basically comes out with the gun, and the black man has now returned to himself, at least momentarily. The grandfather has been kicked out of control, and he says to her, "Okay, give me the gun. Let me kill him." Okay, so she hands it to him. So now the slave basically tricks the slave master, yeah, using words, okay, which is the power of the slave owner, slave master. He uses words to trick her, and he basically shoots her with her own gun, and then he shoots himself right after. Okay, so he shoots her with the gun, and then he shoots himself right after. This is her bleeding now, and now basically and then what happens basically is Chris. This is how the film ends. So Chris basically now starts to strangle her. Okay, he's gonna strangle her to death. All right, but he's strangling her. He wants to take revenge and killing her with his own hands, but he stops. And basically, what this tells us, okay, is that in his heart, he still has love. He still has real love, and his love for her was always real. Even though her love for him was fake, his love for her was real. And this kind of hints at or indicates that the enslaved person gets their love used against them. Okay, which is again kind of one of the more reasons why it's even more evil is that they have love for their slave master. Yeah, they think that this master is looking after me, he's providing for me, he's my kind master. Yeah, they have love for him or her, and it's their loving heart that gets used against them. Yeah, their loving nature that gets used against them. Yeah, which is the cruel and sick kind of thing about it. The whole kind of nature of slavery is like an inversion of how things ought to be. You use someone who loves you, you punish them with, yeah, you punish them with torture and slavery, yeah, with hatred. Um, Someone you're envious of that you want to be like, you break down and you make sure they don't know that you're envious of them. Uh, like that. Yeah, it's like an inversion of good, an inversion of like reality. In any case, it shows that that's why he's the hero as well, because he's still got a loving heart and he's still like a good person despite all the evil that's been done to him. Okay. So even though he could kill her and he potentially could be justified in doing so, he doesn't, yeah, because he still has real love for her, even though her love for him was fake. Okay, so he lets her go. And eventually she kind of bleeds out on her own. And then the police shows up, and it turns out that it's not the police, but it's his friend. You know, his brother has come to get him. His homeboy came to get him, and this basically shows like black solidarity, or like solidarity between the oppressed kind of idea. Okay, like these two are the only real people in the film, and they have love for each other, and that love is strong enough to overcome the entire institution or order of slavery. One thing I should say as well is when Chris does his rebellion, the house goes on fire. The house goes on fire. Okay, and what this basically represents is yeah, you can see the flames here. The house goes on fire, and what this represents is his rebellion has brought down the institution, the system of slavery. A house is a structure, a big structure that people live inside of, which is a metaphor for a system, like a structure of society. So his rebellion has taken down the structure of slavery. Yeah, like when people rebelled against slavery in the past, and that's how they brought it down. Excuse me. Important to know, a lot of white people, if not mostly white people, fought in those wars and the civil wars in America, which ended slavery. That was white people fighting each other alongside black people, yeah, fighting against slave owners and so on. Important to remember who fought the Germans, people from all different places, even inside Germany, who was helping against the government, Germans themselves. There's protests in Israel right now against the government, pro-Palestinian protests for peace and for the innocent people. In the American South, um, there are many people who hate racists and so on. Very important to remember these things. Very important to remember these things. Okay, there are no monoliths of like a color or things like this. Okay, or a people. Very important to remember these things, so you don't become radicalized and then you become part of the problem and you make the problem worse. You become a divider, which makes things worse. Okay. Anyway, he burns down the house. Okay, which is again burning down the structure of slavery, and that's one of the things that he does before he leaves. Yeah, which is why he's like the true hero in this story. Okay. He's like the slave that rebelled against the slave owners on the plantation and freed the slaves. That's who he is in the story. Okay. So his friend comes and picks him up, and then the film ends. Okay, with Rose dying. That's it. That's the film end. So the film, yeah, it's a great film. Yeah, I really recommend that you guys watch it. It's a wonderful film. You need to watch it definitely if you want to understand the true dynamics of slavery. This was my brief kind of explanation of it. Um, yeah, a great film. This is one of the best films that I've ever seen, I have to say. Um, but again, it's very important, okay, that you guys remember, really important that you remember the fundamental things. Okay, one, obviously, slavery is psychological more than it is physical. So you need to obviously not let yourself be psychologically controlled by other people. And the best way to do this is just to form your own identity. Okay, to form an identity which is based on, what should you form your identity based on? How do you know what to do? Yeah. Form your identity based on virtue. That's the easiest way to do it. Form your identity based on virtue, not based on your color, not based on your country, not based on what part of the earth you were randomly born on, not based on your second name, based on virtue, what you do, what good you do for in life, what good you do, the truth you speak, the courage you have, the love you have, the kindness you have, the generosity you have, the fairness you have, virtue. Uh, build your identity around that. Secondly, build your identity around your unique gifts and interests, inclinations that you can share with the rest of the world. That's how you become your unique you. Yeah. So this will help you stay and don't build it on any of the other stuff, which is again frivolous, random. Your country, your color, your second name, and so on. Yeah, all these are just abstract, random. Um, and most importantly, please do not fall into the radical trap, okay? Which is to become an anti-white racist or to collectivize in the same way that the slave owners collectivized people, yeah, black people or other people. Don't become part of the problem, okay? You must judge people based on virtue. That's how you judge people. Are they a good person? Don't judge people. What color are they? Where are they from? All that. Are they a good person? That's fundamental. Just and then expect them to judge you based on those lines. Are you a good person? Everything else is just secondary, random, not really important. Okay? All right. Anyway, there's my explanation of the film. That was fun. Maybe I'll do more. Let me know what you think. And if you can explain the camera thing, if you guys got any ideas about that, let me know, yeah, what you think. All right, take care.